Hey guys, welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I have to talk about Song for a Whale by Lynn Kelly. I read this book this month and it was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. I have so many feelings about it and I just keep thinking about it that I just need to talk about it. So I thought to myself, like, should I do a normal review for this? I mean, it's a middle grade book and there's not much to review without giving the whole story away. So I'm gonna do something a little different. So just to give you a little background about me, if you haven't been watching my channel for a while, I am a speech language pathologist. I have special interests in working with kids with hearing loss, and I also like working with kids with autism. So being in the profession that I'm in, I really felt a special kinship to this story. So I want to help you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed it. So to give you a little synopsis about Song for a Whale, it is about this girl who is deaf. She goes to a regular mainstream school, so she is the only girl in her school that is deaf. The only person that can understand her is her interpreter. I think she's anywhere from like 10 to 12. I know it says her age, I forget. But could you imagine being that age, going to a typical school and not being able to converse with any of your classmates without the help of an adult? Like, the person that's interpreting for you isn't even a peer of yours. It's an adult. The only person in an entire school that can understand what you're saying is an interpreter. Like, that is just not the grade school experience that I had. I doubt it's the same type of experience that you had, okay? So she learns about this whale in school. Blue 55 is the whale's name, and she feels a special kinship to this whale. The difference with this whale is that it sings at a level of 55 hertz. Now let me explain some speechy stuff to you. Okay, I believe it says in the book that typical whales sing at 20 to 30 hertz, which means that they sing and they're hearing lower volumes. This one whale is singing something up here, so these whales that can only hear down here cannot hear him. Now he can hear the other whales, but because they can't hear him, they can't understand what he's saying. They can't understand his song, and they can't sing it back to him. So she learns about this whale in school, and she feels like, finally, there's somebody out there like me. I know what it's like to be talking, well, signing, and nobody understand what I'm saying, and they can't sign back to me. So she makes it her mission to reach out to this whale by creating song for him. She gets the band in her school to create this song. I use the term song lightly, like it's a song because it has musical instruments in it, but it's not like a la 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 melody. They kind of just play in some frequencies that this whale would understand because it's at 55 hertz, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. So if hertz doesn't really mean a lot to you, let me explain something. So think of somebody really old that you know, okay? Your grandma, your grandpa, maybe some old neighbor down the street that has trouble hearing you, okay? It's just a fact. Like, the older you get, the harder it is to hear. So you're not hearing the higher frequency sounds. It's much easier to hear the lower frequency sounds. I work with some kids with hearing loss, and for example, a 15-year-old that I work with, we really work on his S. Because since he has a hard time hearing it with his cochlear implant and his hearing aid, he has a hard time producing it too. It just makes sense. Like, why would you be able to produce something out of your mouth if you're not hearing it, you know? So a lot of times I'll lean in close and make a s on whatever word I'm trying to tell him and have him say it back to me, just so it's a process of giving and taking. So he's practicing hearing it and he's practicing saying it. So that's kind of where this whale comes into play. Now, if you want to do a little exercise, okay, I can teach you about voicing. So right now, I want you to take both of your hands and put them on your throat. Okay, if you're watching this video this far, you're clearly interested, so I want you to do exactly what I'm saying. Put your hands on your throat, all right? I want you to make a V sound, as in violin. V. Do you feel your throat vibrating? You should feel it kind of shaking against your hands. V. Now I want you to take the voicing out of it so that you're only producing an F sound, F as in off or Frank, okay? So go from V to F. V. Do you feel how your hands don't vibrate against your throat anymore? That's because F is a higher frequency sound than V. Editing Elise here. Okay, it's gonna bug me if I don't correct myself. I didn't mean to say that the reason that your throat isn't vibrating is because it's at a higher frequency. I meant to say that voiceless consonants, consonants that don't use voicing, is the reason that your throat is not vibrating. F is at a higher frequency, but the reason that your throat is not vibrating is because it's a voiceless consonant. Okay, continue on. It's easier for people to hear what are called voiced consonants, consonants that have voicing, like V. The frequencies of these unvoiced consonants are usually higher, making them more harder to hear, okay, more difficult to hear. Does that make sense to you so far? Okay, so we're dealing with some whales that are not hearing these high frequency sounds. This, for example, it's just an analogy, but this blue 55 whale could be singing F. Okay, because he can sing F and understand F, he can also understand V. However, these whales that are only singing in V cannot hear F. They can only sing in V, therefore they can only hear V. They can only sing back V. Are you with me so far? Okay. So if you understand that, you're gonna understand the bulk of this story. So another thing I wanna hit on the story is the idea of rhyming, okay? If you're hearing, you understand what rhyming is. For example, let's just take the word I, as in I or I. We can think of a bunch of things that rhyme with it that aren't spelled the same way. So we've got I, hi, bye as in bye-bye, or we can have bye as in B-Y, like bye next to. There's chai, what else? Sigh, hi, sigh, I-G-H. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to produce that sound that we know as I, okay? However, if you're deaf, does that make any sense to you if you have never heard it before? If you are only reading the words on the page, is that gonna rhyme to you? No, it's gonna look completely different. So there's a point in this story where this girl has a poetry assignment and she has to rhyme things, and it doesn't mean anything to her. You know, you have to think, if you haven't heard it before, why would you be able to produce it? So one thing that they do touch on that's right at the beginning of the book, that her and her grandfather used to play this game that's kind of her method of rhyming. It's like a rhyming in ASL, okay? So what they do is they take one hand shape and they have that same hand shape and they go back and forth. Like somebody would say a line, I would say a line, but they have to keep the same hand shape for each line, okay? That's their idea of rhyming, okay? So I want you to think of this sign right here. The thing I love about this book, it tells you how to make certain signs. So if you put your pinky out and your thumb out and you have this as your ocean, this is the sign for a whale. Look at that, it looks like a whale gliding across the ocean. This, I want you to think of the same sound that we said over here as I, all right? It's not gonna have the same sound in every sign that I show you. All right, but think of this as your I, you're rhyming, all right? This right here is what you wanna rhyme with. So we have whale, we have why, we have play, all right? Those are three signs right there that have kept this hand shape. All right, so to a deaf person, that is rhyming. I mean, isn't that beautiful? I think that's really beautiful. And I feel like if you're not that familiar with sign language, maybe you wouldn't appreciate that as much in the book. But I really loved that. And I want you to love this book as much as I love this book. Something else I learned that was super interesting in this story that has nothing to do with speech whatsoever is the way that whales communicate. Okay, now I am not a marine biologist. As I told you, I am a speech language pathologist. Nothing to do with marine life. But from the book, I understand that whales underwater, you know, they're not singing in the way that we understand what singing is. They're not down there like, la. Okay, that's not happening. What they're doing is they're forcing air through tight spaces that make a sound. Let me see if I can demonstrate this for you. And I'm gonna be like blowing my air on camera as hard as I can so you can hear it. So, for example, if I just open my lips and go, you can hear it, but not that much. However, the more that I close my lips, more of a sound comes out because I'm forcing air through a smaller space. So it goes, okay, yeah, no, there was like some spit coming out of my mouth, but do you see how you heard that one louder than when my lips were further apart? So the tighter the space is, the more sound can travel through. I just thought that was super interesting. And again, like if you're into marine life and you know how to teach this much better than I can, by all means, leave a comment below and correct me or not correct me or whatever. I am more than happy to get your criticism, but I just thought that was super cool, right? I don't want to tell you everything that happens in this story because, you know, there's things, not even like spoilers, but it's a contemporary, really. And anything that I tell you, it's kind of like when you get to that point in the story, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not like a spoiler, I'm not ruining some big climax, but also like I want you to enjoy those things too. This story just hit a chord with me. Like, it's all about communication, okay? It's not just about some deaf girl and some whale that doesn't have somebody speaking to him, all right? It's about the power of communication and about how if you are stuck alone on an island with nobody to speak to, it's like, what does your existence even mean if you can't talk to somebody and have them talk back to you? I doubt that you've gone into a fast food restaurant and haven't been able to say what your order is, you know? Like, deaf people can write it down or something like that, but for them to go up to the front of the line and have to hand a piece of paper because they know that that person is not going to understand them, it's just like, it's things that we don't think about, you know? And this girl in Song for a Whale is going to a school every day with people the same exact age as her, and she isn't able to talk to them. It's just, I can't even imagine what that's like, you know? And because I work with kids that have hearing loss and going through the story and just seeing like the turmoil that I felt for her, especially when she was just so frustrated and upset, I'm like, that's what I'm working on. My job is to lessen the frustrations and to make communication easier for everyone, you know, everyone involved, whether it's parents or kids or peers or interpreters or whatever. Like, my job is to smooth out the communication. And that's really what this story is about. The power of communication and how important it is to meet someone at their level. Like, if you're having a hard time understanding somebody or talking to somebody, try and find some common ground, some way that you can talk to them and have them talk back to you. It's just, oh, the message is wonderful. This is such a great book. I can't recommend it enough, and I just want you to go out and read it. It gave me all the feels. I still have so many feelings about it. I just want people to read it and understand it and be able to love it the way that I do. So please go out, get a copy of this book, and talk to me about it because it's just that fantastic. All right, thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks. I will catch you in my next video, guys. Goodbye.